Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Little Things. And this is a new film that is releasing on HBO Max through Warner's decision to have all of their films this year be released in theaters and for the first month of its release on HBO Max. And this is a detective story about the hunt for a serial killer starring Denzel Washington as a sheriff who is working out in the country now after some things happen when he was working in the city, and he's kind of seems to be disowned, and they don't want to see him there anymore. But he shows up to get some evidence and gets drawn into this case that's being run by Rami Malek's character, who's like a young upstart detective. And the tricky thing is, this film is getting a lot of comparisons to Seven. It's not necessarily the same kind of story. It is about a serial killer, and it is a procedural drama, but I don't think that this film hits the same kind of beats that Seven is. It's focusing on different things. I actually felt like I saw more in relation to, say, Insomnia with this, especially because there's so much focus on what Denzel Washington's character is dealing with, what happened, what got him to this point, similar to, well, in the original version, I believe it's Stellan Skarsgård, and in the remade one, it is Al Pacino. And you have that part of the film that's really important in this. And one big difference is, it's not a big surprise when you see who the suspect is in The Little Things. In Seven, that was a thing when Kevin Spacey came on screen and had very little screen time. Here, you know Jared Leto's coming. You know what he's bringing to the table in this film. And this is all being put together by John Lee Hancock, who is the writer and director of this film. And there's films that I really enjoy of his, like The Founder and Saving Mr. Banks, and even like a soft spot for like The Rookie. And wasn't the hugest fan of The Blind Side. And he does have some films like The Alamo, and that might be a little bit darker, but like I feel like this film is his first foray into something really dark. And I don't know how well that translates. This film doesn't necessarily feel like it's something that is in his wheelhouse and it's really clicking, because I feel like he has this bit of a wide-eyed wonderment about a lot of his films, and there's a sparkle to them. This film, I guess, doesn't feel dirty and grimy enough to really capture the atmosphere of the story it's trying to tell. And that's one of the big things about Seven, is there's an atmosphere. 100%. Fincher creates that atmosphere. Here, it doesn't necessarily come together in that way. And I think one of the biggest things that took me out of this film, and I don't know if many people will even notice this, to be perfectly honest, but the editing really bothered me. There's moments where that camera should have held on a stair, or a little bit longer. Or there's one where, like when you first see Jared Leto's character, it holds on so long that it feels like I wanted to laugh at it because it felt like a silly shot. And then there's multiple moments throughout this film where there was some timeline confusion and lack of time logic where some of the edits were going on. And there's one particular moment earlier in the film of Denzel seeing Rami Malek in a parking lot and then cutting to, like, he's going immediately to this place, and he arrives at this place, and Rami Malek's already there, and it seems like he's been there for a while. And it's just like, it took me out of the film. And The Little Things, which is the irony of the title of this film, because Denzel Washington's character keeps focusing on, it's the details, the little things that can get you. And I feel like the little things in this film don't really come together as they should, and it takes away from the experience. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't super surprised by how this film turned out, which is a little strange because this film sets itself up to be something unexpected. And I think some people will be surprised about where exactly some of these things go in this film, but it also leads us to whatever happened with Denzel Washington's character and why he left in the first place. And I feel like how the story plays out is anticlimactic and unfulfilling in the end to me. And I didn't buy into the story, and that was the struggle, because this film's 2 hours and 7 minutes, and it really takes its time, and it really labors on certain points, and it never really felt like it built to something in terms of the case that they're working on. And when it is trying to split this time between here's this case that they're chasing Jared Leto, but there's so much of this is what Denzel Washington's character, Deakins, is going through. And that winds up becoming such a big part of it. And honestly, the main focus, and mirroring off of Malek's character as well. And some really positives, though. The score from Thomas Newman is fantastic. Really impressive, emotive, and unique, and stands out and creates that atmosphere where maybe some of the other technical aspects didn't achieve that. The score really creates an emotional atmosphere and helps with the scenes. You have Denzel Washington, who is really strong in this film. It's not something that's like by far one of his best roles, but like he does a lot with a little. And then you have Rami Malek, who feels a bit stiff and doesn't have a whole lot to work with, I felt like, and comes off very straight into the point where it's just like, you don't get a whole lot out of him. And then there's Jared Leto, who's just going for it. And he's entertaining. He just brings this weird quirkiness to the film that shakes things up and creates an interesting antagonist for our protagonist to try to confront. And I think Leto added a lot to this, what that might not have really been there, especially with how this story plays out. But in the end, I feel like The Little Things is a little underwhelming and doesn't quite hit where it had that potential to hit, and just winds up coming off as a by the numbers, you've seen it before kind of detective drama. But those are my thoughts on The Little Things. Let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.